Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive with OA. I am Omar Abedin, founder and CEO at PTH Venture Studio. Today, we are privileged to host William Carbone, CEO and founder of a very interesting startup called Evalify. For the last 10 plus years, William has been a significant member of the technology and entrepreneurship space. You may already know him because of his work as a CEO and co-founder of Evalify, which is being built out under Nobody Studios, as well as his role at the Adjacent Possible. He's also been a substantial contributor to AI, aerospace, and quantum computing. William has been honored with 2 Stevie Awards for his contributions to business technology and sales and customer service. He holds a leadership role at the Rome Business School and currently lives a globetrotting lifestyle, shaping innovation ecosystems worldwide. William, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Omar. Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
So, William, why don't we start out with a little introduction about who William Carbone is?
Yeah, great. By the way, thank you for making the research about me and the introduction that you already provided. So I'm originally Italian. I've been living abroad for more than 17 years now, living in Portugal, and I have background in engineering. That's what I was doing when I was a student, and different disciplines, electronic engineering and aerospace. And I was always fascinated about technology and intersection with business. So it's something that I cultivated during my time at IBM. It was 10 years in the corporate world, in which, as you mentioned, I had the opportunity to look at spaces like quantum computing and AI, and continue cultivating and nurturing my passion for aerospace. And why aerospace is, it's just because for me it's the most advanced, one of the most advanced areas and industries, and it's easier always to repurpose that those learnings to other industries. And my passion, of course, is also what I enjoy doing after the tough work as a founder, co-founder, is music. So I'm also a concert pianist. For those who can relate to, I enjoy playing piano and collect groups, and this great sense of community with that. And doing that, I've been doing that since I was 5, and I was also part of an orchestra. And something fun about that is that I don't know how to read music, so I can directly play anything that I hear. If people are interested in that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah,
okay, very cool. Very cool. Maybe one of these days, or maybe you can send us a link to a performance of yours, and we will put it at the end of the video. So if our viewers are curious, they can go and see you actually tickling the ivories. That would be amazing.
Thank you, Omar. It's something actually I'm working on for this year, finally to make some kind of YouTube channel with that, so to capture and share this gift with more people.
Fantastic. So, William, tell us about Evalify. How did you think about getting into this? What prompted you to, try and solve this particular problem?
Yeah, that's an interesting question also because it's mostly been a journey on the IP space and patents. And I was lucky enough to meet my co-founder, Nick. Nick Sgoba is someone I met during my tenure at IBM, where basically it happened when I was organizing a conference, a tech conference, internal for IBMers. And he was speaking about NLP and virtual assistants. He's a specialist in these areas. And after the conference, we start talking, and the first thing came out was like, an idea for a patent on a coffee machine, as we are both Italians. And this was like nearly 7 years ago. And we never stopped talking about that. And we also filed some patents together. And Nick is a prolific inventor. He has more than 40 patents on his own. And the great part was that I was always fascinated about inventions from my side. So my journey with that intersection was that since I was a child, actually my parents bought an encyclopedia about inventions and inventors. So it was those old cassettes with cartoons about Newton, about Archimedes, and all the inventors. I think there was like 50 of them. And this was a huge encyclopedia that for a child was fascinating to see, instead of only watching Disney cartoons, seeing a different side. So long story short, with my childhood dreams about being an inventor and making a change to the world, we left IBM to build a company called The Adjacent Possible. And that was an idea that came out after a program for entrepreneurs that was launched during the COVID times by the Finnish government, called the 90 Days Fin program. And it was an absolutely amazing idea because there were like, the 90 Days Fin program means that you have 3 months to learn about the Finnish culture and experience it from close. But also the selection process is quite tough. Like there were 5,300 applications. We made the news, in CNN and BBC. I think it was BBC. And while I was at IBM, I said, okay, let's give it a try. I don't think I will be able to get into these 13 people who out of 5,300. So I sent the idea of the studio, the Adjacent Possible, to the the committee. And after several interviews, I was taken as a 90 days fin. So it was the first time they did the program, and that's how that's how our company happened to be in Finland as well. So following the program acceptance, left IBM and made the innovation studio in Finland. And the idea was simple. Basically, was the idea around the Adjacent Possible is that it's an idea factory on one hand that produces ideas, protects them as a patents, and commercializes them. And on the other hand, you also have the methodology that came out of that. So how do we invent things in a smarter and more efficient way that is now? So how do you look at the patent data sets and the data as a data scientist? So if you can imagine the patent data as a universe that is expanding every day, we have nearly reached 200 million patents to date. So and it's an exponential growth. If you think about like took 75 years to get to 1 million patent in the previous years. Now it took only 35 months in the past years to get to 1 million patent, and talking about the USPTO alone. And coming back to your question, so knowing all this, we are thinking about how do we verticalize this methodology, and what else can we do with that? We've been helping startups, organizations, and corporations with not only with their IP portfolio, but also with ideas that they had in their drawer, and help them to facilitate that. How else can we use the methodology for? And we had this lucky encounter with a studio called Nobody Studios. And guess what? Their mission is to build 100 companies in 5 years. And we said, okay, maybe we need some IP in there, right? And the idea was simply to help them, in more a consultancy way, to scale that and have more awareness about IP. And little did we know that this will become a company. So Evalify was actually born with our forces being joined together and thinking about how to verticalize the learnings from the methodology into an industry. And guess what? The industry was actually the VC industry and the startup ecosystem. And why? We felt the necessity of raising awareness, especially at the early stages, where startups don't know much about IP and they don't have the right tool to access. It's basically a fortress that is all held by IP firms or paralegal teams, and it's usually a task that's performed later on. For example, Series A, Series B due diligence, the IP comes handy. But what about the early stage? And we had several questions about that, like, oh, what if we could start from a pitch deck? And what if this could be available 24/7 on the cloud, no matter of the language? So you would basically start with a pitch deck in English, but then you would be able to research all the possible patents in every virtual language in under 70 countries. And it will not take 2 weeks or 3 weeks like it takes for a lawyer. Nothing against lawyers. It's simply like the way it is now, right? The status quo. And what if it will take minutes to do that? And you will get a result and a score and a competitors list. And we thought it was impossible like 10 months ago, but it became possible thanks to our efforts and investigations with the team, hiring the right people, but also the great help that we got from the studio with the resources.
Amazing. So now tell me exactly what Evalify does.
So Evalify addresses the pain points of de-risking investments on one hand. So as an investor, you want to make sure that you don't have any, you're not infringing on anyone. So the startup is probably great. You love the team. You've done already 3-4 calls or met them in person. They have a quite great, unique, valuable position, and everything is okay. And you might not check the IP, especially if you're in the pre-seed or seed stage. And we believe it's important. And why it's important? Because as I was talking about before, it's the and I know you asked about what the Evalify does. I will even show you in a second. Why it's important is because that type of level of awareness is not available. Simply, there is no tool that helps you to do that early stage. So with Evalify, you finally can put a pitch deck. The tool extracts the technical features of the pitch deck that you uploaded. It can be also, by the way, a technical specification or a business idea. Doesn't need to only be a pitch deck, right? You can just, as soon as it's a PDF with a description of the idea. And then we scan these technical features that have been extracted from the document against 200 million patents worldwide. And we give you a result. There is a full description about the patents that are involved, what is the infringement risk. So you get like an overall score. It's either higher or low infringement risk, and enough sort of freedom to operate for those who understand this type of legal term. And then each of these technical features has a score itself. So you can actually understand if it is important to pivot or not. Maybe that idea has been already covered by someone. It has been, let's say, it's not so innovative as you think it was. And the whole process, all the complexity of this legal space, it's simplified for both startup funders, for investors, and of course also for the legal teams that are using Evalify.
Okay, amazing. So just for everyone's reference, I recently went through a really difficult process where a startup that I'm working with based out of Dubai had filed their trademark applications in the US and in the UK, and of course in Dubai also. And a really large company actually came back and challenged them in the UK. And so the two options available were fight the application rejection process from the trademark office in the UK, or say, okay, fine, why don't you buy the trademark from us? Because the third option was change the name. And so actually the company in the short term decided to change the name because it was very expensive to actually combat this very large multi-billion-dollar company that was challenging the claim. So to your point, the earlier you do this due diligence, the better it is just for your own sanity. Forget about investors. For your own peace of mind, for your own, knowledge that your plan makes sense and that you'll be able to execute on that plan. It's absolutely critical. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Omar. And that's always with trademarks. And trademarks a little bit more linear, right? You have words, you can search it. It's just a word. And then patents are much more complex. You have claims, you have images. It's a lot of debate around those. So even having awareness of where you're stepping in, it's so important.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Intellectual property, unfortunately, remains somewhat scary area for many founders. There are a lot of people who are trying to spread awareness of the importance of managing your IP, creating and managing your IP in a proactive way, as opposed to waiting for the world to come and slap you in the face. But there's a long way to go. So what advice would you give to new founders in this arena? How can they work with you, and what what are the costs? What are the benefits of working with Evalify?
Absolutely. I also want to say this is a good question because what we are learning, this is a new market. So there was really little about IP and venture capital and startup ecosystem. Simply because I was saying before, it's not accessible and it's hard to grasp, it's expensive, and people think, okay, yeah, we can be under the radar and no one will sue us.
Yeah.
But it's not the case anymore, right? We are learning that there is so many patents. It's a crowded square, as Nick, my co-founder, used to say. I'm quoting him in that, like it's a crowded square that is getting even more crowded because many companies, many individuals even are fighting for patents. So the advice that I would give a startup founder, I mean, we are in 2024. We made this tool available for you. And there are so many advantages to that. First of all, you will test your idea in a way that wasn't possible before. You will have more awareness about the features you're developing and who else is in the space. For example, you can even go ready to an investor and say, oh, we have a positive score here. Evalify said that we have low risk of infringement, and we checked for real. We did a real FTO analysis, not just Googling competitors and technologies. And here is the report. Like there is like 30 pages, 60 pages, depending on how many features you have. So it's for sure something that an investor, even in your pitch deck, will love to see. And we also, as a company, we are trying to become the go-to score. So we would say if you have, let's say, more than 600, you're good to go as a score. You can imagine it's a kind of credit score
Yeah.
for a startup, right? We made it very simple. And below that, you should take action. And we ran that ourselves. So we have this dual role of helping investors and startup funders, but also being a startup who is also fundraising, right? So what really was a game changer for us was that we could put our own pitch deck in our own system. And we were a bit disappointed. We had a low score at the beginning. Oh, we're infringing on all these companies. Like maybe we should change and be more aware about these different features. And so what should we do about that? We need to change a bit the roadmap and see why some of these features didn't work for some of the companies. Because looks like some of the patents were even abandoned in that space. And we came up with some ideas around that. So we had, our own internal pivot, and our score was above 600 afterwards. So we went from 400 something to above 600, and we reran, of course, with the new pitch deck, our learnings, and it was a great exercise for us. So what I want to say to the founders is that this tool has a price point that is accessible for both investors and founders. We were surprised. It's at $249 per report. However, we are changing, also into subscription model now that is going to be even more accessible to founders and investors. And imagine, raising, I don't know, 2-3 million. You will probably find $249 for your IP and learn a lot. Like you will see their competitors, you will see their abandoned patents. You can go. We made available for you the fact that you can click on a patent, and even though we don't use Google Patents as a database, we have our own thing. You can actually look at the patent on Google Patents and see everything about that invention or abandoned invention and learn so much. We even got people writing on LinkedIn looking for those inventors and asking them questions. Oh, why did this idea fail? What went wrong? You were a corporation. What went wrong with this idea? And why did you decide to abandon? And these conversations are simply not possible now. You will have investors asking financial projections and the typical things that are asked. Problem solution team and so on. But what about the IP? That's our reason to exist here. What about the IP, especially at the early stage?
No, that's amazing. Okay, so I'm very excited to see a demo of the product. Are you ready? Shall we?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Shall
sure.
we unveil the system?
I was just using it this morning, so I will, let's see, it should work. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Amazing. So to give a brief introduction on how easy it is to work with Evalify, I will be looking at this screen. So that's where I have the screen. So it's super simple. So all the complexity of the legal framework is simply hidden into an easy to use interface. We did a lot of work in the last months to do that. And it's written here that you can upload a startup pitch deck, technical document, or a product brief, as I was talking about. And you can do that as a, drag and drop or click to upload. Your credits will be shown here. So let's say one credit is a single report, which is $249. And there are some other features here. For example, once you upload your document, you can also explore the type of scope. So we know that there are like 170 jurisdictions worldwide. The global, it's for all those, right? And it doesn't matter if you have a patent that is in Hindi or Chinese or Japanese. Our translation is like 1-to-1. So if you're looking for invention of a pen in English, it will be translated into Chinese relevant or any other languages relevant. And the IP5 only is actually meant to be if you're looking only for those countries like US, Europe, China, Japan, and South Korea that actually produce most of the patents. And let's say if your search is restricted to certain markets like the IP5. But we give you also the opportunity to do a global search. I know in the future we're gonna even have a specific country as a feature. So you're only looking for patents in Spain, let's say. And the other part that is acting and is more interesting for investors is the retrospective assessment, which is a sort of we call it a patent time machine. So let's say you have a startup that you invested in 4 years ago. So it's like back in 2020. You can actually run that analysis with the data set of 2020. And that's quite fascinating because we got many investors looking at their choices and their gut feeling, but backed by data finally, and how it worked for that startup. And actually there is a correlation. So some of the companies that were successful were also having a very good score in the IP space. So this means that there were a few new entrants in that space, and they made a really good competitors analysis and also freedom to operate analysis. And of course, these were companies that have been backed up by legal teams as well. So it was more, it was easier. But we found a correlation with that. And we also have on our website companies, for example, like Uber and Jobon that were, successful and unsuccessful with their funding. Now, without, the analysis usually takes 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the scope that you have. But that's actually starting from a pitch deck, you can have this result right away. So you have an overview of that startup, starting from the famous pitch deck. And then you have a description. So let's say if you're an investor, but also a founder, right? You want to be, don't want to lose time on this. You have an overview and you have a score that was talking about. So this startup in particular has a risk for patent infringement, which is very high. And then this should be like already a yes or no decision for you. But you can go also in detail and understand more. So then you have...
this looks exactly like a credit score. And I'm sure it's designed that way on purpose, right? So
correct. So people can relate to it, right?
Yeah.
And then you have things like, novelty index that are more focused on, let's say, an IP type of talk, and litigation risk index. So you have infringement, litigation, and novelty. These are the 3 main pillars when you're conducting such an analysis. And then we have, for example, the technical features that I was talking about that are actually extracted from the pitch deck. So the system is smart enough to contextually understand what are the features that have been extracted and what is their risk for each one. So how many competitors are there? That's a section that comes after. How many patents have been analyzed and how many critical patents are there? In this case, we even have one critical patent. Now, here you have very high risk probability for the infringement for this feature. And you can also decide to stop here for this feature or zoom in. And we present you an overview of that specific technology for that feature. And it's not only in terms of infringement risk or usage rate, but also you have the explanation of that, the summary in the detail. And guess what? You can even go, by the way, that's for a patent, for each patent. So you have here a patent with this nomenclature and who is handling it and what's the legal status. Legal status is very important data. Like you can be abandoned patent, it can be pending patent, and then you have the status is here as well. This is a critical patent. And then you can go over and over with the patents that are associated with a specific feature that our system has extracted from your pitch deck. We also introduce something a little bit more geeky, which is an expert mode, where it actually lets you to go to read the full patent. I was saying on Google Patents, right? So you can actually really deep dive on that. And then doesn't stop here. You can even have a semantic, I would call it, I don't know, mirroring or semantic.
Sanity check.
Yes, exactly. Inside the evidence claim, which comes with a more expert view mode. And of course, if you know, investors will not even spend 3 minutes reading a pitch deck nowadays because they're overloaded with, you know, there are thousands and thousands of pitch decks, but they might spend some time actually. Their business analyst or someone in the associate in the firm will go and look for this. So that's more for founders, I would say, or legal teams that are interested in analyzing that. So we made available even things that are connected to a specific part of that feature. And so you can really go and understand, oh, that's really what our company is doing. And we need to be aware of that. Somebody can come up and it's a corporation, and it's granted patent. So sooner or later, as soon as we raise money or have like some considerable revenue in their market, they're gonna knock at our door probably, as it happened, for example, for your case, even though it was for trademark, and sue us in court. And that's like several millions to go there and settle. And you do that over and over with the feature. And then, for example, in this case, you have the opportunity to do a detailed examination of that. So we also give the opportunity to have this type of talk. And that's feature by feature and patent by patent. So these are all the features that have been extracted by the pitch deck in this company. And some of them have a bit of better news for the founders, so they're not so much infringing exactly. And the cherry on the cake for us was a turning moment for many founders is that you have the opportunity to have a real competitor list and players in the space from the IP point of view. And that's something that is unprecedented because it's only accessible to legal teams and kind of IP analytics platforms, and you need to know how to search for that. It's very laborsome. So we made this available. And when basically investors ask you about, okay, who are your competitors? Here you go. These are all the competitors. Individuals, of course, you want to make sure that you put many companies if you're doing your competitors list and corporations doing similar thing. And so that's how far we went with using IP data, patent data, to help startups and investors with their analysis. And on this side, you know, as a last point, you have also all the list of the patents and that are classified by, you know, the critical, of course, it's granted, and then how many granted patents that are there that are clickable. So it was really, really in detail and in deep. How many are pending?
That's amazing.
And also, yeah, that's all the, in a nutshell, what the tool does. And you can extract these report also as a PDF, so you can share with your team. You can print it and know more about that. And I'm sure a lot of conversations happen, and it's just a lot of awareness for the team. So our mission is actually to bring that awareness, especially at the early stage for a startup.
Fantastic. So where is this going, William? How big is Evalify going to be?
So we believe if everything goes as planned, that every accelerator, every investment firm will rely on the score and the analysis of Evalify. For example, you can imagine things like Y Combinator or Techstars accepting startups that have, let's say, a green score, or like low infringement risk, and let's say 600 and above, or 550 and above, and it's up to them to decide, and at least have more back and forth conversation. That, of course, it's about the background of the founders. This is it's a marriage with investors, and even if the idea is great, you still have to like the people you work with. Of course, we hear a lot that the team is important. We believe that team is very important. But then also, where we see this going is that there will be every accelerator, every investment firm using Evalify and raising finally that awareness in the IP space that just wasn't possible before. And if I look at the increasing importance of patents in the space, we are basically the first one who made data available on this type of speed, availability, and price point. We are not a banking system, and it's all about time and price, right? That's not where we're gonna the type of area we're gonna fight for. It's more about the value that we provide, and the hard work that has been behind the methodology that's been developed for 3 years. It is actually our secret sauce. And then we are telling you about the risk of that, but also the next steps would be, oh, what are the opportunities with that startup? Okay, you can't go there, so that's the risk. But what else can you do with that idea? The adjacent possibilities, even the monitoring, the white spacing, that's where we're moving on also with our roadmap.
Fantastic. I have seen some of the reports that you were kind enough to pull for our venture studio startups, and the data is phenomenal. Access to this kind of data would normally cost, thousands of dollars, and many hours of legal fees to try and collate a report like this, and it probably would not be able to cover languages like Mandarin and Hindi and Tagalog or whatever. So I think I'm very excited for where you guys are heading. I wish you all the best of luck. You're in great company with the team at Nobody Studios. They're a fantastic bunch. I think I'd like to close just by thanking you for taking out the time to talk us through what is Evalify, where it's going, how it can help founders, and in general, just helping to spread awareness over a very misunderstood area of any startup's life cycle, which is intellectual property. So, William, thanks very much, and I hope to see you back again on the show in the future.
Thank you so much, Omar. It's been a pleasure being here today, and look forward to reconnecting and connecting with people who are watching us. You can find me on
Fantastic. LinkedIn. I will actually post your LinkedIn profile as well. Thank you, William. Have a great day.
Thank you.